Hello, I'm Guy Kezirian from Scottsdale, Arizona. It's a pleasure to be with you today. My financial disclosures are listed here. They're all organizations and groups that are working toward bringing vision correction to the world, which is really my purpose in my career. I'm happy to talk to you today about the concept of refractive surgery as a new specialty, and I want to thank the organizers of this meeting, the BRSCRS, and of course Renato Ambrosio Jr., who personally invited me to give this talk. It's an honor to be with you. I want to start with a story about aviation. The story of aviation has a lot of parallels with what we're doing in refractive surgery. In the early 1960s, the entire commercial aviation in the United States only flew 18 billion passenger miles. A passenger mile is a mile times the passengers on the plane, so 18 billion is not that many when you consider that one airplane could cover several million miles flying across the country. Fast forward to a couple years ago, and aviation flew almost 1 trillion passenger miles. How did that happen? Well, it happened through a focus on safety. This chart on the right side looks at the accidents and the fatalities that occurred over time. And it talks about the numbers on the left, the actual numbers of people that had fatalities, which is of course very tragic. And in the blue line in the scale on the right is the rates per passenger mile. And the thing that's really quite striking is over the last 12 years, there have only been 14 deaths from all of commercial aviation, which is really quite remarkable. So there's a direct parallel with the aviation model and refractive surgery. So aviation grew in a very, very deliberate way. They prioritized safety. And this ecosystem of efforts that you see on the right, centered by the UN's effort with the ICAO, brought aviation together as an industry, not just pilots, not just airplanes, not just airports, not just air traffic control, but the entire ecosystem around standards and cooperation and accident investigation and advocacy to make aviation grow to where it is today. We have a long way to go, because did you know that refractive surgery today is not even recognized by any of our professional specialties as its own specialty? It's considered a subspecialty. If that, in fact, it's not even recognized as a subspecialty by the American Academy of Ophthalmology or any other large organization. It's recognized by us because we practice it. There's no standardized curriculum, except for some recent programs like the Refractive Surgery Alliance's fellowship program. There's no accredited fellowship programs, there's no board certifications, and there's various degrees of expertise and competence. Most of the fellowship training that we have is around cornea and refractive, with very few that focus just on refractive. So what I'm going to suggest is that we're not a subspecialty, but we are a new specialty. Refractive surgery is about performance, not pathology. It's about vision, not anatomy. It's about patient pay and customer service and customer satisfaction as opposed to third-party reimbursement. And it requires exacting skill levels. To be a refractive surgeon, you have to be almost perfect. We can have variations, but we cannot have complications. And this puts a level of expertise, a demand for expertise, that frankly exceeds that of all of our other fields. There's an old saying in business: if you want to grow, narrow your focus. And that's what we need to do. Refractive surgery must step out from being in the shadow of ophthalmology and become its own specialty, separate from ophthalmology, not a subspecialty, of course, building on top of ophthalmology, and becoming a super specialty, one with people with all the skills of an ophthalmologist and the added skills of refractive surgery, similar to we have in plastic surgery versus general surgery. We have a precedent for this. It's been done, and we need to do it ourselves. Now, why? Why do we have to have this focus? Why do we need to grow? Well, the world's #1 cause of visual impairment, and this is a wonderful study that I'm citing here from the Lancet in 2020 in the Global Commission on Public Health for Ophthalmology. And they showed that over 90% of visual impairment today is from untreated refractive errors and refractive errors in general. So if you look at that and you think, well, how big is that compared to ophthalmology? It's like 10 times or more bigger than all of ophthalmology. We are bigger, and yet we're in their shadow. We must step out, we must grow, and we must reach our potential, or we will not reach our goal of solving vision problems for all of humanity. You know, in the developed world, we can sometimes, in the US, for example, have about one ophthalmologist for every 15,000 people. When we look at the developing world, the number drops to only about 3 in a million people, and we look at the number of refractive surgeons, and it's just 1 in a few million people. They're very rare people. You are very rare people. You are very special people. And we have to let you reach your potential by giving you the ecosystem and the environment that you'll need to grow. It's a really important thing. This isn't about us. This is about humanity. This is about the fact that based on the estimates you look at, it's between $4.7 to $3 trillion, depending on which study you look at, of lost economic productivity and the global impact of refractive errors on the world each year. This is amazing. This is a huge number. It speaks to our potential to really affect humanity. And it's getting worse. Every year, the incidence of myopia goes up. And this is, of course, from the, you know this as well as I, this is from the close work that kids do with their cell phones. It's from the lack of outside activity. It's from all kinds of environmental factors. But the reality is that by 2050, over half the world's population will be myopic. This is a crisis. Now, we can treat today, already today, very safely and very well. We can treat most refractive errors. There's only a few ranges that we cannot treat. We can treat and control myopia development in young people. We can treat and very effectively treat distance vision in young adults with all the different treatments we have with lasers and lenses. We have a plethora of treatments coming along for presbyopia control with both pharmacologicals and lenses. And of course, then there's refractive cataract surgery that we can use to treat and give people great unaided vision. This isn't trivial again. 1 in 4 people over the age of 65 will experience a life-threatening fall each year of their life. And 40% of those can be attributed to wearing glasses. Giving people unaided distance vision and near vision in the elderly is an extremely important part of our work. How are we going to do it? We're going to do it the same way that aviation did it. We're going to have an ecosystem built around what we're doing now. It's going to be an ecosystem that has all the elements of aviation with standards and cooperation and training and all the other things. And it's going to be done in a way that puts in the middle of this World College of Refractive Surgery and Visual Science, not as a self-centered effort, but as an effort to provide a neutral, collaborative space where we can all work together to grow the field of refractive surgery. So my proposal and my response to the request for this talk today is that we're not just building a new specialty, we're building a new industry. And we have to look at it as such, and it requires the leadership. It requires your leadership to make that happen. Dan Dury, my old friend Dan Dury and mentor, likes to say that as refractive surgeons, we practice surgical optometry. Well, maybe so, but what we're doing is several times larger, economically, demand-wise, impact on humanity than all of ophthalmology, and I would argue even than most of medicine combined. We have a global focus. It will require a coordinated effort. It will require a long-term vision. And I would propose that someday we'll be looking at this chart and pointing back at refractive surgery and saying, hey, in 2022, we only did 2.5 million procedures in the whole world. If you add cataracts on it, maybe it's 10 or 12 million. But then in 2050, we did maybe 400 million procedures because we're addressing the entire human need. So refractive surgery as a new industry is larger than ophthalmology. It combines all the sectors, manufacturers, surgeons, optometry, the delivery systems, advocacy, all of it. It focuses on standards, safety, processes, and collaboration. And aviation provides a great model that we should look to and learn from and even involve in our growth. We live at a very special time. It wasn't until 1804 that there were 1 billion people on the face of the earth. And it wasn't until now, in the last few years, the last couple of decades, that we've been able to correct refractive surgery so well. And I would like to propose that history will look back at our time and see us and our work as one of the most important developments that happened, because it's the first time we've been able to correct the vision of all of humanity in such a safe way for such a functionally important need. So I want to thank you all. Thank you to the BRSCRS. Thank you to Renato Ambrosio. Thank you to you for your attention today. I hope you'll work with us. I hope we can all collaborate together and bring refractive surgery to the world as not only a new specialty, but as a new industry. Thank you very much.